conversation.
Uh-oh, I forgot to start the music.
Uh-oh.
Dang it. Here we go. And I can't hear it for some reason.
There's no music. Where is the music?
There we go. Music here. Talk a little like Bob Ross up the top. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I would like to welcome a good friend of mine to the show. He is a holistic lifestyle coach who specializes with anxiety. And his name is Justin. Justin, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, brother. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for joining me. We've been looking forward to doing this podcast for a while. So it's great that we've both found the time, and looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too, man. And been a couple months into, probably about 5 months in the making.
Yeah, that's right. So yes, exactly. Let's rewind to the how we met story. So we were both in the Strong Coach business mentoring program, as we were both striving entrepreneurs in our fields. Absolutely. So, and recently graduated the Strong Coach program back on May 19th, I believe. And so here we are, right off the bat. Part of the Strong Coach program was, we were in the same group, obviously, and we were to do certain thing. I think it was the curiosity game was the first one we did, right? Where we just one off with each other and set up a Zoom call, just get to know each other. I believe that was the first one. Anyways, is that
it was either that or the
feel?
I don't know where the other one.
Well, yeah. What did the feel game? Yeah.
Yeah. It was feel, imagine, and something else.
Yeah. How soon we forget.
Yeah.
Model students we are.
But I mean, that does stick with me though a lot. Is
it did,
the wordage, and I mean you've done and lifted, so but the wordage on feel and imagine, so it's powerful.
For sure. I noticed that I do that a lot. Like when I say I feel and then I launch into a story. And the way there was no there's emotion attached to that story, but by saying I feel and then, exactly. Yeah. So I guess for anybody that's not knowing what we're talking about, switching that up with I imagine, like I imagine it's this way, or it's kind of sort of like I assume, something along those lines, versus saying I feel and then,
instead of saying something like I feel like, Matt, you secretly have a grudge against me.
Right.
That would be, I'm not really saying a feeling.
Exactly. Good. Yes.
A feeling would be, I feel fear, Matt, and I feel, fear, anxious, because I imagine that you have this grudge against me.
There we go. Yeah.
Because it is an imagination. It's an idea. It's not a feeling.
That's right. Yeah. So that was right off the bat. What were some of your other big takeaways from Strong Coach? I have a few I'll share, but I'll let you riff on that.
Takeaways from Strong Coach is even a deeper understanding of the importance of like my health and well-being. Right? So that's and putting that at the top. Like I went through, CHEK training through the CHEK Institute, and, I riff on quite a bit of I, we, all, right? Concept of putting yourself, I, before we, you and one other person, all, you and more than two people. But I think the Strong Coach really, and like even deep in that of like when I started to shift my days towards doing, like starting my days in a way that I actually wanted to versus how I thought I should start them. Right. I should be working at 8 a.m. I should, put in 8-hour day. All these shouldn't on myself. Once I pulled that back and started to take time to really take care of myself even more in the morning, and work when I was actually feeling like I wanted to work, 10 a.m. at the earliest, then that helped me shift quite a bit So that was a really big takeaway for me. And not sloppy, but messy, quick action is another one. Like just putting yourself out there and not, negation acknowledged there, but not pulling back from putting things out there because they're not perfect, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
of like this whole coaching thing isn't that, it doesn't have to be so complex. You can just talk about how you're going to help people in different ways that you're going to help people and how you've helped yourself on your platforms, which I do. And just continue to show up and do that and have communications with people. And what do you know? You can create a business for yourself by just putting yourself out there, having conversation with people and simplifying things down. And that's really what I liked a lot, is they simplified a lot of this whole big process of starting your own coaching business into something that's more tangible for me, and something that I judge that from the program has made me able to start and really make this a legitimate business earlier than I would have if I had tried to do this on my own. Because I'd probably still be focusing on my, getting the next certification. Still focusing on trying to hyper explain this concept, really bring it out. It's like people don't care about all your certifications, and they don't care about all the nuances and the terms that you really know. They care about themselves, their problem, and how you're going to solve it. And if that's learning that and then putting that into practice has been very nice. So those are some takeaways for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that's all of that definitely resonates with me. Especially the part like the hyper explaining or the other certification. It's this sort of need to, continue growing or expanding. And it's almost because, but when you talk about like, I've heard of the phrase, perfectionism is like another form of procrastination, right? Like somebody keeps working on something and then, there's analysis paralysis, I guess, another thing where it's just like, you get to the stage where there's been so much energy that's been put into it. And then you're nervous or afraid about putting it out because it's like, man, it's you've worked on every little detail out. So like, there's no room for collaboration or critique or anything. And it's that's well beyond the threshold of just, like you say, the messy action where you just have to do it. You've done a great job, by the way. Like you're, obviously following each other's Instagram accounts the whole time. I know if I recall, you were fairly, nice, hesitant or just uncertain about what kind of material you want to put out. And as soon as you got into the reels game, like you're getting like 5 figures, like so many people looking at your reels and you're not even using hashtags and, crazy, right? I'm like getting, and the funny, okay, I want to run this idea by you, just quickly pivot into Instagram, how beneficial it is for guys like us. But I wonder if you get the same thing where I tend to, especially when I have these moments of self-doubt, or even if I don't, as soon as I go on Instagram, I have this like comparison type thing that I end up doing, and I'm just like, well, how can I get, it's that survival, or even the self-doubt, the imposter, or, that darker side, the shadow side of me definitely gets amplified and brought out when I'm on Instagram. So I have to very much limit myself on there and just go on there with a mission, as opposed to the death scroll and, looking at what other people are doing. Just, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to use this as a tool. And then I remove it. I've gone as far as like deleting it off my phone, like the app. I'll put it on. Nice. Put it on when I need to use it. But, to steer back to you, and just want to hear what you think about Instagram as a whole. But dude, such a wonderful thing to watch how you've developed your brand on Instagram and just coming out as Strong Coach. I'm super proud of you, just as like a friend and be part of your group. I think you did a fantastic job, and I love your presentation. Not blowing smoke, like you earned it, man. It was really cool to see your journey and now knowing, you know, being at ground level of you getting those, you know, getting things going in the way that you did is like, man, it's such a cool thing to see. But yeah, what's your take on like on Instagram and you know, putting yourself out like that?
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you. I very much appreciate it. And it's been, and likewise to all of that, it's been really amazing to see you step deeper and into your brand, into who you want to connect with. And I mean, I showed up um to your call, or where you did your webinar,
Yeah.
and you'd already connected with the whole community on Instagram
Mhm.
with AA, or I don't know if it's AA, but you know, people on that journey
Yeah.
of
Sobriety and
yeah.
totally. Yeah.
And so that was awesome. And I'm sure that was probably a month and a half ago now. And I'm sure you've continued to provide even more value for more people. And it's been really awesome. I know you in particular, like you started our program with no experience of coaching,
Mm.
correct?
Right. Yeah. I'd done family and friends, and had, you know, like the certification, but yeah, literally had not got a client. Correct. Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, to have watched you just like show up, put in the work, put in the work, put in the work every week. Um, it was inspiring. You got me to show up a bit more than I probably would without you being in my on my team, on my program.
Nice,
So
man. I love to
yeah,
hear that. Thank you.
you're welcome. For me, yeah, Instagram definitely had a lot of reservations about it. Didn't want to put myself out there really that much. I have been more and more over the last few years, but um, you know, not. I've kind of had this limiting belief around it, around me talking about myself, my successes, my struggles, is like, who the hell are you to just sit here and talk about yourself? Like, I didn't have that thought, but that was the energy that I had around putting myself out there on the platform. And it's been beautiful to shift away from that and just do it anyway, do it scared. Um,
Yeah.
because I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, wow, I like practice your breathing techniques a lot and they really help me. Or you know, I had this woman, she messaged me like paragraph on paragraph on paragraph on how the little things that I was saying were helping her more than she'd had in therapy. So to think that I can have an impact like that, and all it is me talking about myself and my journey, is pretty special. It makes me want to continue to stretch into sharing more about myself and sharing more of my journey, because who knows what the outcome could be.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. That's fantastic that you're getting that kind of those kind of reactions, you know, just
Yeah.
naturally, just from, and it's, you know, such a nice reflection. It's not, you know, at the end of the day, it's not all about external validation, but man, it sure helps, especially when you're just starting out, doesn't it? Eh? Like when you
It
get
does.
that, it's like, oh, you know, it gets you out of your own head, and it's like, hey, this is real. Like you said, tangible, right? Now there's something there. There's some like, you know, something that's yeah, tangible and intangible that have just has so much more depth, you know, and body behind it. So the one thing I just wanted to say before we get into your journey, and that's what, you know, we have you here to do, is like I want to talk about just quickly the one thing that I really enjoyed for learning from Strong Coach was the whole idea of like intersecting with reality, like the whole, it was like the truth, I guess, truth to reality, same kind of thing, right? Where it's like reality or truth is like a line, the objective truth is a line, and then the way that you interact with it, the way that Mike explained it, Mike Bledsoe, was you know, high vibe people will interact with it as quickly as possible and as frequently as possible, right? Versus some folks that might get, you know, getting a little bit more low vibe and kind of in their own head, and the dips are so much longer, so they'll kind of have like almost this point of depression and then slowly come back up, intersect, and then, you know, ride the highs, right? So you can't, I'd never heard it explained like that with a visual, and I thought that was yeah, I still like, I think about it daily. Like, just, am I intersecting with reality, or is this something that, like, am I in one of these dips, or am I, too into my imagination, or am I too into my inner critic? Have I gone up and tested it, or am I just doing this in my own head? So that part for me was kind of like, it seemed fairly trivial, like in its placement in one of the modules, but to me,
Mhm.
it speaks the whole truth for the whole concept of the program, in my opinion. It's like, trying something out, you're going to have the ups and downs. Every week for me was like super transformative. Every single week I was like, everything happens so quick when everything is new, right? So it's just like, holy crap. It's and then you try something with it. Okay, you're so sure. Like, I'm so sorry, speak with I statements. I was so sure of certain things. And then by the next week, I completely abandoned it and gone a different way, which is fun and exhilarating. And that's what it gets back to what you're saying about messy action. You just got to do it, because if you're theorizing it and waiting for something to happen, you just got to do it. And then you'll know right away. So it's
Right.
like, yeah. So that was kind of my main takeaway, I would say, from Strong Coach. But yeah, so your journey, I let's get into it. Like, what is your origin? Like, you're doing some work with anxiety, holistic, the holistic background. You're looking to, on your Instagram account, it has like the something along the lines of help or healing anxiety without the, and then the emojicon of a pill, which is cool. So, it's the holistic approach, right? So what is your background with that? How did you get to that? What does anxiety mean to you in your journey, origin story, as far as that goes?
Origin story. Uh, I guess you could take me back to being a kid. I was always more of a sensitive kid. Um, I was I wore my heart on my sleeve, I guess I would say. And I never really experienced too much anxiety that I really remembered until post graduation of high school. Um, Even though I have reconvened with a girl that I used to date in high school, and we were talking the other day. We did a breathwork retreat together, and we're friends. And she was saying how when I used to hold her hand, my hand would get all sweaty. So
Mm.
I like little stuff like that, and I remember that. I remember being self conscious about that. Um, but a little bit of that fear with like before sport games. That was about my experience of anxiety. And then, oh, I don't know, 19 years old, um, I had started to get into smoking cannabis a bit more. Even though in high school I had smoked and had fun, and it was just like a giddy time, right? I'd smoke, we would eat food, we would laugh. That was it. And and then post high school is like I kind of started to I would there was times where I'd start to smoke, and I would have things come up about myself or the world that really took me like very much into my head and into like a tunnel vision. And some of those were very challenging experiences and things that shifted my physiology and my psyche in a way that brought on more anxiety um, into my everyday life. And I wasn't sharing a lot of that too. So pretty much most of that, it was all an internal, alone process of, you know, questioning a lot of things about myself all the time, constantly leaving my body and going to my head. And so I struggled in that for a number of years. I had a panic disorder. At least I was diagnosed with one. I had over 100 panic attacks during a couple number of years there. And it was very challenging, but I don't see it as something that was only a negative. If anything, it actually, a buddy of mine, he tagged me in this quote the other day. It said, uh, often when we are when we're in a dark place, we think that we've been, oh shoot, I'm just gonna bring it up because I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
It was super good. I'm gonna pause and bring it up. How about that?
There we go.
That's how
Yeah.
the attached to it.
Yeah.
Here it is. It's
sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but actually you've been planted.
did you hear that?
So sometimes in your dark place, you think you've been buried, and then the end part I did not get.
But you've actually been planted.
Nice. Oh, wow. That's super cool. But you've
Right.
actually been planted. Oh man, I love it.
So the idea is, you've been planted in this experience, in this dark, confusing, scary place. But what's going to happen from that is, what do? You plant plants underground, dark, scary place. They grow.
Yeah.
And I think that this journey that I've been on has been one that has allowed me to grow more than I would have if I had just stayed in a, you know, place of not really ever experiencing true suffering.
Mm. Yeah,
Because
that
I
yeah.
had very much prior to that.
Makes a lot of sense. Like, I have a quote on Beyond Recovery, like on the website. It's something along the lines of, I should bring it up too, but it's I'll paraphrase it. It's folks who have come closest to their own death. That might be a little bit dramatic, but you get where I'm going with it. Folks who have come closest to their own death live the most fulfilling lives. Because and I say it's a similar idea. I can relate in a sense that, like, people ask me, like, wouldn't you have rather not had, these addictions? I said, actually, no, I believe, I know that I'm a better person for having them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have way more self-awareness than I ever would have. I have way more gratitude because that's on the other side of these dark places that I've been. Right. So I've had extremes on that side. So now I can experience and allow myself to feel quote unquote extremes on the other side. And it's like a full bodied experience because it has both sides of the light and dark, the yin yang. Right. So yes, that's super cool. So that's kind of like your early life. So you're kind of getting, or not kind of, like you're definitely getting taste of it. You said over 100 panic attacks that you've had.
Yeah. And that was, those are attacks. I was also having like just everyday general anxiety all the time.
And you found your initial use of cannabis would just accentuate that, highlight it, amplify it, right? You just, like you say, that's when you get. So did you continue using it, or was it, what were you using, if anything? Like, did you find anything that you could cope with the anxiety? Like, what did that look like for you?
Well, it's looked like many different things. I did try to continue to pick up the phone and understand cannabis. A lot of the time out of the idea of, well, I know that at sometimes during my experiences, I have access to different thought processes than I do when I am sober. And sometimes they are enlightening, right? But most of the times they're also so, I go into such a tunnel mode that my brain, my higher order brain, is just in fear and it shuts down. So like I didn't really bring a lot of things back from a lot of those really challenging experiences because I was so shut down. And a lot of I showed up to a lot of those too because I wanted to fit in.
Yes.
I was around people that were smoking, my friends that were smoking, and I would just be like, I would skip over checking in with myself to see if I actually wanted to do that, and I would ignore myself and my state and my no to say yes to somebody else to get them to like me.
Mm,
you know,
yep.
and that the pain teacher showed up a lot of times. And if you don't listen, it'll just keep staying there and keep giving you the same lesson and over and over and over. And, at a point, I also, I was blaming cannabis, but it was me, that was the one that was continuing to show up in the way that I was. And, uh, yeah, I have healed my relationship with cannabis a lot. Um, and that's due to me taking a nice big old break, and also just taking my time with it and being more intentional with it, and being out in nature with it. And that's that, you asked what are some of the other tools that I use, and that's been a huge one, is getting out in nature, is
Mm,
connecting with the natural world, is getting to just feel the things that are happening around us all the time, the wind, the sun, the hearing the birds, feeling the grass, feeling my, the mother earth underneath me supporting me. That, getting my relationship, building a relationship with nature has been a huge one, in shifting my anxiety over time. Also, speaking up, talking about my experience, you know, not hiding anymore, getting into things like men's work, group work, therapy, talking to friends and family about things that I've struggled with, things that are between us in relationship that I've shut down. Um, and then, also shifting my lifestyle, shifting the way I breathe, shifting the food that I eat, the water I bring in, how much I'm sleeping, really, really just going all into trying to create the most grounded person that I could within myself. And that looks like, switching all, creating a new lifestyle, bringing in more laughter, more play, more happiness into my life, and bringing in more people that have also suffered and are open and willing to go there and do the internal work to heal it and to grow from it. So that's a long-winded answer. Plant medicine has also been a tool. Breath work, like doing different types of breath work. They've all been great tools to add to my toolbox that I've used and have helped me along my journey.
awesome. We're gonna unpack some of those, that we both have in common, because you turned me on to, a men's group as well, that we're going to get into. But before we do, was there did you have a specific, what you would address as like a rock bottom moment, or a turning point where you're just like, okay, something has to change? Or was it just sort of an accumulation and a gradual build over time? And, as a result, you had some countermeasures that sort of gradually, came into, like you said, you changed your lifestyle around. Was it just sort of some trial and error, and you gradually, steered the ship back to shore? Or was there like a moment where you're just like, holy shit, like, things have to change. I need help.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both.
Mm.
Um, I'd had many moments where I felt like rock bottomy, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Um, I never I never went to the hospital. I never attempted to take my own life. I had thought about it. That was pretty scary for me. I didn't want to look at anything like ropes or even guns. For a time period, that was something that woke me up a bit to, okay, I need to get some help here. Some other days where I was like had a panic attack the whole night before, or during, a whole day. Clearly I'm not having a panic attack the whole time, but I've had a panic attack, maybe even two or three, where I was just so anxious during that day or that, couple hours, that for the next 2 days, I'm just laying in my bed. Like I can remember at times just laying in my bed and just so much despair and so much exhaustion from what I just gone through that I would just, kind of like lay in the fetal position and just like have my head here and just be like, I don't even know. I don't even know what to do. Like I'm just so exhausted. I'm so burnt out. I don't know. Yeah, I just need help.
Mm.
So yeah, I ended up talking with my mom one day after I'd left a relationship that I'd been in for 4 years, where I was, pretty much keeping everything inside, and was like, that relationship and all these times that were just kind of built it up, that ending, and then them accumulating, took me to doing one-on-one therapy for the first time, and that was when things started to shift, because I was starting to take off the layers of shame.
Mm.
You start to actually talk about the things you haven't wanted to talk about, and anytime you do that, you're expressing that which you further have repressed.
Yes.
That
Yes.
energy doesn't go anywhere, and you can't bury alive emotions.
Mm.
Start to bring those up. You start to share. Yeah, it's a long-winded answer of your
Yeah.
question, but
It's what we're here for, the long-winded answers. These types of interviews are warrant
yeah, they're
podcasts,
right?
Yeah,
They're,
exactly. Yeah.
they're not 60-minute gotcha clips.
No, yeah, exactly. Not even close. Not even close. No, that's coming out of that though. So what is the timeline like? So it sounds like, the counseling, that first one-on-one, counseling call, I imagine was a big turning point for you. Where coming out of that, where in the timeline was it when you start getting into, the men's group that we've talked about? And then where is that before or after? Where is the Paul Chek Institute, where you decide, I'm going to start, this is my passion, I'm going to teach this now and learn about this holistic approach? Yeah. Where does that sort of, how did you set the table for what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so I set the table by throwing myself into a bunch of things that I'd never tried before and that were talked about as being things to heal. So therapy, did that 2017 to beginning of 2018, and I'm reading this new book. It's not a new book, but it's a book new for me. It's called
Personality Patterns.
5 Personality Pattern.
Neat.
Have you ever read this book?
No, I'm aware of, it's like a book, I want to say similar. I'm kind of curious if they have the same like archetypes or personality types, because there is one that has a different title that I was just looking at the other day. Very different. Tell me about it though.
About these different patterns. They're all survival patterns that we have used or have woven our way into as a way of survival. And they're called leaving, merging, enduring, aggressive, and rigid. And I run a leaving pattern at times, where that you kind of dip out of your body and go into your mind.
Okay.
Or completely leave situation. So I ended up completely leaving that relationship with that therapist. And then so that was 2018. And then I started my journey of plant medicine after that. And so I did psilocybin mushroom retreat in 2018. And then like 2 or 3 months later, I did another retreat with cannabis, even though I was still very much so triggered by cannabis. I was trying to go to something and help heal that relationship. And it was a stop on my journey of of healing with cannabis. It definitely was not the thing that switched it over entirely. I definitely had many challenging experiences post that retreat, which, you know, we could go a whole rabbit hole on the importance of integration and continually showing up to the practices. But so there was that. And then later that same year, 2018 was a pretty big year for me. I then met men's group in the fall of that year. Have been doing that ever since with the Mankind Project, getting seen by other men week after week after week and sharing things about myself that didn't want to share with anybody, you know, things like my sexuality and my childhood. And I had a, you know, pretty damn great childhood, but nobody gets out alive or nobody gets out without a scrape or two, right?
Yeah.
You know, just being seen in my emotions as well, being seen in rage, being seen in grief, and by other men, and them really holding space for me to go there was huge, and it has been huge for me. So 2018 to 2020, I graduated college December 2020, and I decided in 2017 that I wanted to start studying psychology. I didn't know I wanted to start studying holistic health. I thought I was going to do a degree in addiction studies there for a bit. Yeah. So I did take quite a few addiction studies courses, and I did enjoy them, but I ended up navigating toward holistic health because it was something that I was engaging in to help me with anxiety. I wasn't struggling with addiction, but I was struggling with my mental health even while I was in college. And I still can. Like, it's not like I'm always, it's not like I don't ever experience anxiety, right? Like that's actually been a huge thing for me in the last, I don't know, handful of months, is continuing to acknowledge that it's okay for me to still experience anxiety, and not, you know, and that doesn't make me a fraud to offer the services that I do. And if anything, it makes me more relatable.
Yeah. It's like the opposite, right? For sure.
Right. And granted, I've come a long ass time, or a long ass way. Like I don't have panic attacks anymore. I don't experience anxiety every day. When it does come up, I'm able to be present with it. I don't leave nowhere near as much. There's times where I do. There's times where I do take quite a bit more food in me and numb out that way. I'm still very much so on my own journey. But anyway, I studied psychology, studied holistic health, graduated December 2020. The year of 2021 was when I doubled down after I graduated and went into holistic health, where I started studying the Czech Institute and becoming a holistic lifestyle coach. And in the year of 2020 as well, I came across another community not too far from where I was going to college, and we started doing breath work together, and that was incredible as well. Like, just breathing and having like emotions come up that I have been shoving down, knowingly or unknowingly, just come up, and incredible. So that's another journey into the last couple of years. I guess why I've wanted to do that is every time I've been able to connect deeply with somebody about my story, and hear that I say something, or I point somebody in a direction that helps them, you know, prior to me coaching, it felt good. It felt like it was giving me feedback of this feels good to help people in this deeper way. You know, before that, I was not really helping people all that much. I wasn't aware if I was.
Mm.
And so for me to shift into wanting to do that as a career, came a lot from just sharing my own story. And yeah.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I love it feels like after you got to a certain stage, it was just like as soon as whatever it may be, the linchpin or like whatever started you on the journey, everything, you've just allowed everything that's come your way. You've remained open to it, I guess is what I'm trying to articulate. Because it feels like very, you know, if you were to look back on it, it seems very linear, the path that you took. But I also imagine that, there was some indecision and there was periods of time where you weren't exactly sure where you were going to go. But now where you are now, it's like, okay, you can look back on it and go, okay, yeah, everything kind of just actually very naturally sort of fell into place for you by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I mean, I did I came across naturally into some podcasts that led me onto plant medicine. And then those led me to the retreats. The retreats led me to the men's group. And then the men's group led me to this other community. And, it is just, yeah, things did unwind very naturally. It did not feel like that in the midst of it all.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I think just following what feels good, following my feelings, following my heart
Mm.
has allowed allowed things to just kind of to fall in, and saying yes to it, being open to it, being curious about these new, different things, and having support along the way to put myself out there, to experience new things, and know that I still have, people that love me and support and can hold space for me to integrate new experiences, was huge to allowing this unfolding to happen.
Yeah, like a feeling of safety, security, community in order
Mhm.
to allow that to happen. Yeah. What would you say to somebody that's kind of starting this? Because you're literally going from what you're saying, like crippling anxiety of just in a fetal position, wondering what the hell to do, but
Mhm.
then still have the courage to proceed with it. I think it's important that we, you know, get you to verbalize like what it was like, because I'm imagining, and I know from my own personal space, like when it was time to ask for help, I didn't feel courageous at all. I felt like kind of the opposite, right? So I think it's important. Like, I want to hear what your take is on it, though. Like, what is it? When you're going from the spot where you're like in the fetal position, oh, I need some help, and you're putting yourself out there in these situations, and you're, like somebody that's that anxious to go out and meet and talk with complete strangers and like opening up about them. That is very courageous, and that seems counter to the person that you were. So yeah, how can you verbalize that to somebody that's listening to this and going and kind of in that stage? Well, that's great for you, but I'm not that courageous, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, if you remember back to my story, I started with one person, started with a therapist,
Right.
and then I told my one friend,
Mm.
and then I started to tell and have conversation with, one family member. And then, like I didn't leave the fetal position and then go into a men's group.
Right. Yeah.
uh, so yeah, I guess if I were to, somebody was saying I was in the fetal position last night, so fucking scared. Um, I would say to share that with somebody, even if it's just one person who you deeply trust, to share, because shame flourishes in secrecy,
Mm.
and shame is a killer. Like shame kills people every day.
Mm-hmm.
Shame kills people and puts them into alcoholism, puts, suicide, all these different things, you can, get to the base of it, and it's shame. You feel like there's something inherently wrong with you. And what fuels that belief is not telling anybody about what you're going through. So yeah, I try and I would say to share where you're at with your experience with one person, even if it's one person, and try from there to just be on your team as much as possible. Like people know the things that they need to do to help them out. They know they need to sleep well. They know that the cheeseburgers aren't helping them out. They know that all these, they know that drinking caffeine when they're already feeling anxious is making them feel more anxious. So just, get help and get on your own team, because nobody's going to save you but yourself. Like, you're going to have people that help you along your way, but it's got to be you. You got to double down on yourself. And I don't know if it's courage or if it's desperation. People change from inspiration or desperation. If you don't want to change from desperation, you're already sick of where you're at right now. Get inspired. There's so much amazing stuff that's happening out there in the world. There's men's groups that could be later on in your journey, but even one person that you could speak with and then branch out from there, it can lead to your life being completely different in a few years down the road. So
yeah, no, well put. I like when you're saying, like, talk about, so diet is still something that I'm kind of struggling with, and specifically, if I'm going to be specific about, is like convenience. Like if something's around the house and it's like snacky, like easy to grab and on the run, I'll just grab it. And like you say, cheeseburger, I know it's not good for me. I know drive through anything is not good for me. But the speed, that I perceive myself that I need to do, my health will take a backseat to convenience. Like, how much do you think is like convenience or comfort is to blame in a sense? I mean, as far as the person's perception, obviously the person at the end of the day is to blame, but you get what I mean. How much do you feel that comfort or convenience is to blame for some of these bad habits and or like shadow work? Like, we're going to talk about shadow work, I'm sure, at some point here, but the stuff that runs in the background that remains sort of unchallenged, or you kind of get a little, devil on your shoulder type thing about it, but you silence it pretty quick and proceed with the behavior anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge. I think the more that we try and avoid discomfort, the more that we're going to be uncomfortable. If you can be,
yeah, right.
if you can
Totally,
be friends
man.
with being uncomfortable, you can stay in uncomfortable experiences easier. You can remain more grounded. So that's, that is one part of it. And another part is strategy. Yeah, I mean, is convenience, and convenience, you can make eating healthy and these, other things that can make you feel better. You can make them not as inconvenient. Like, you can make them more convenient, right?
Definitely.
You can create a strategy with food. You can take away the things in your house that are that are a quick grab, and it's the quick grab is not the bad thing. It's what are you grabbing? So you got a bag of Cheetos versus a can of sardines, right?
Yeah.
Or a candy bar versus an apple,
right?
So you grabbed your candy bar and your bag of Cheetos. You're sending yourself into a blood sugar spike and then a blood sugar drop. And that is, if you didn't have anxiety before that meal, you are going to after.
Yeah.
If you're, I mean, it's likely, it's highly likely, because
Mhm.
anytime we're in having a low blood sugar, it's incredibly stressful. It's like something that I get people to shift first in their lifestyle is managing their blood sugar.
Mm.
Um, and that second meal that I said to you is a nice balanced meal. It's got an apple, it's a carb, it's going to bring you up. You got a sardines, that's high in fat and protein. That's going to balance that out. It's really like we talked about, that awareness, or the truth that,
Yeah.
right,
Mhm.
we're eating balanced meals, we're not going up and then coming down and then staying
Mm.
down here and then
Yeah.
needing a huge pick me up. It's like you eat a balanced meal, you eat that apple, you eat that sardines, and it takes you
Yeah. Keeps you.
here.
Yeah, I got you. It's a good way of explaining it. Yeah.
It's how convenient is an apple and a can of sardines, baby? I
Yeah.
mean, mhm.
For sure, for sure. And that's funny. Like I have definitely done the making sure whatever I have in my house is what I'm going to eat. The one thing that I'm like a fiend for though is like granola bars. So that's and like, so specifically the Laura or Luna bars. They're
Luna-
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
those are good, right? But I
Go
can
ahead.
eat.
Go
So
ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I could eat like the whole box, and I usually do. Like I'll buy 5 of the chocolate chip peanut butter, and I eat them like throughout the day. And like I'll do certain like what they say in like Atomic Habits, like create some friction. So I'll put them up in like the top shelf so they aren't there, because they used to be like literally like right down the hallway there on my way to wherever. I just grab one, oh yeah, mindlessly, right? So now I kind of hide them from myself and still have to go through this, like, okay, now I gotta open the cupboard and I have that 2 seconds of like, do I really need a 5th Laura bar at this point? But then I just like blow that out of the water too. Like, yeah, I kind of do. These things are freaking good, and at least they're made of dates, and then the justifications start coming in. So that one's tricky for me. I guess I need more apples.
Yeah, or you need more meals,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? A
yeah.
lot of times we're under eating, or we're snacking the whole day instead of sitting down and having like solid meals throughout the day.
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
gets people a lot of times to overeat, is because they're not giving themselves the fuel that they need throughout the day and consistency.
Right. So what
So
is it more, because with nutrition specifically, I think there's so much like counter knowledge, you know what I mean? Like one thing will say one thing, one source will say the exact opposite. Then of course, then they're like, well, and your body's going to react differently. So this isn't, so it's very challenging, I've found, to find something that works specifically with my body, aside from just experimenting with things, right? In your opinion though, just generally speaking, because I have heard like, it's like if you snack throughout the day, that's good for you, because you never have these energy dips versus having these massive meals that, when you talked about, I think in our pre-interview when we first started, 50% of your energy goes to just breaking that stuff down. So a bigger meal presumably would be more energy to break down, yada yada. What is the balance in there? And assume it obviously depends on the person's metabolism, activity, so forth, but generally speaking, what would be your reply or answer for that?
yeah, it's a good question, and it's very it's true that you could go look up this exact same question and you're going to get a ton of different answers.
Yeah.
But what you could do is you could grab yourself one of these.
Oh, I've seen one of those.
This is it's a notebook. It's a pretty new thing.
Yeah.
Also hand size, so that's pretty nice.
Very nice, very nice.
And what you can do is you can be your own experiment, right? You can eat a meal here at 7:00, another one at 11:30, another one at 4:30, another one at 7:30. I usually eat about 4 meals a day. So this is me. I experiment with myself. I feel the best when I eat this way. When I'm snacking throughout the day and I'm writing a whole novel on the one side, because I'll write my meals and then this side is how I feel, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If I'm writing a whole novel because I ate so much food, I take a look over here and I realize, oh yeah, I was feeling quite bloated, and I was feeling, I actually felt a bit tired there in the day. And it's like, so, you can be your own experiment and check out these things for yourself, because at the end of the day, yeah, there's so much different stuff that's out there. What I understand is that especially if you're anxious, to make sure you're getting uh, food early in the morning within the first hour, and bringing in a balanced meal, trying to have a balanced meal at every meal. So you're not having only carbohydrates, you're not having only protein. And trying to put on, like, have them being good sized meal. And the analogy from some of my teachers is you have a fireplace, right? The fireplace keeps your house warm, but the fireplace, you have to put fire in and put wood on for the fire to succeed. And so if you were to want this fire to last you the whole day, you could do two different things. You could line up a whole big old thing of kindling and a whole big old thing of logs, thick logs, right? And so you could start your morning, you grab that kindling, you put some on, you got your fire, and then you go and you start to do something, but you look back over there and you say, oh shit, the fire's almost out, I got to run back, and I put the kindling back on. And then you go and you try and do something and you realize, oh shit, the fire's almost out, I got to go put the kindling back on. Right? So you do this the whole day. It's the same thing. That's the analogy of snacking.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not putting any big logs on, so you're having to continue to put little bits of snacks on the fire.
Right.
Or you start off the morning, and you put a log on the meal, a log on the fire. It's still got some embers from the night before. Maybe you put a little bit of kindling on there with a quick, something smaller in the early morning, and then a little bit later you go and put a nice log on. And then 3-4 hours later you come back, still some flame. You've had a beautiful last 3 or 4 hours. Grab another log, put her on the fire. Go and have another 3-4 hours of life. Come back, put a log on the fire. You are attending the fire so much less, and it's lasting you the energy. It's giving you that fuel for a long period of time. So that's how I look at food. Let's have meals spread throughout the day that have some girth,
substantial.
Yeah. So you're not having to put little bits of kindling on all the time. And that it really helps, especially, I work with people who overeating is something that is common. That's been a big part of my journey too. And the more that I have got into rhythms of solid meals throughout the day, then when I get home at the end of the night and it's dinner time, I'm not like trying to, blow on that fire. Fuck, I didn't put anything on. Let me just take the whole kitchen and put it on this fire to try and, to try and give me some heat, because I'm hurting. I have no fire in me.
And that's like when you're all soaking wet and you just need the fire going, but it's not ready. And it's this huge process to kind of get it, and you're like resenting it. I love that analogy. What would be the equivalent of like intermittent fasting in relation to the fire analogy? Because I have been doing, like, I would do, what is it? They're pretty, like 20 hours off, 4-hour feeding window. I sometimes like 21-3. Like I've tried that for 3-4 days at a time, just to kind of, if I'm feeling kind of groggy, and just to try it. Part of it was just, again, experimenting, right? And And so I'll have like literally, I basically just do it in one massive big and meal. I'll do breakfast and then immediately have lunch and then wait an hour and then have like dinner, quote unquote. What would that be in the, how would that fit into the fire analogy?
To the fire analogy, it would be like having a roaring fire for a short amount of time and then it goes out.
Cool. Yeah, I guess, eh? Okay. So, yeah, it doesn't
And
quite have the same, you know,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not saying that like no fasting for nobody ever. I just think that fasting has got blown up way too much.
Interesting.
Personally,
Yep.
I think we live in a world that has, we are doing so much and we're being asked of so much physically, mentally, emotionally, that basically we're going on road trips every single day, but only filling up our car to go around the block.
Mm. Yeah, cool. Another analogy of gas and cars and such. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
Yeah.
food is our fuel.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yeah.
if we're not giving the fuel that we need, then we're gonna be hurting. Our car's not gonna be going very well. I mean, that's one of the things I do with clients is get them to eat more food more frequently.
Yeah. Okay. No,
And
that's cool. That's interesting. That's
yeah,
interesting. Again, yeah, it's just like there's so much information about nutrition. So yeah, it's cool that thanks for sharing what you've learned and what you're sharing with other folks. Question for you. This is kind of getting to the point where it's there's a lot of extra subject matter I want to get into. I'm wondering if it's A, what kind of timeline you're on, and
yeah.
B, at this point, I think we'd just stop it and then hit record again and then just do it a two-parter. So dependent on your availability.
I've got 40 minutes until I have another meeting.
Cool. Are you down for a second part?
Right now?
Yeah. Or would you rather do it in the future?
I'm down. Could we do it in 25 minutes?
25 minutes. And then we would do about 15 minutes or so before.
So yeah, that would give me, my meeting's in 40 minutes. So I would like, 15 minutes before to just chill out a bit.
Oh, I see what you mean. So we could jump into part two, but then as long as we wrap it up with 15 minutes prior to the, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay. Yeah, I follow you. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks, Justin. Join us for part two coming right up.